Alrighty, fellas, Dylan here. And today, you're going to learn how I booked a little bit over 200 appointments in a single month while only actually working maybe an hour a day at most for my lead generation SMMA through cold calling. We created a calculator to figure out what KPIs that we needed to hit and how many dials that we needed to do in order to actually get enough appointments so we could reach our financial goals. What I've listed here is the different problems that you're going to run into when you're beginning to manage or even doing cold calls yourself and what the solution to that problem is. You're going to be able to completely rip through lists, dial 2 to 3 times more people in the same amount of time working, and ultimately see 2 to 3 times the numbers of results. These were the overcomes that we had for the most common objections that we got. You're going to book double the amount of appointments theoretically with no additional time invested into your cold calling process just because you set this thing up properly. Because they was just put in all their numbers, how many dials they did, how many pickups they got, how many pitches they got through, and how many appointments they set. And then we could come in here and we could tangibly see which was the problem here. We just got to do more dials. We just got to do the boring work. We got to get better over time. We got to study the process. We got to study sales. We got to study tonalities. And if you do 1,000 dials, if you do 2,000 dials, if you do 3,000 dials, over time, you'll get really, really, really good at cold calling. And that is how you'll ultimately hit the numbers. One of the ways that we were able to get more appointments, but obviously a bit of a lower close rate because some of them weren't as qualified, was with. So before we get into the actionable steps and content and lesson and scripts that I'm going to give with you guys so you can walk away from this video knowing exactly what you need to do to set over 200 appointments a month inside of your own agency, let me share with you how this came to be. So if you know who I am already, you know that last year I took a brand new marketing agency from $0 to $36,000 a month in 7 weeks, and I documented every single thing online. And if you don't know me, well, that's actually the origin story about how this came to be. So last October, I started a brand new agency, and because we wanted to do it and show you guys how to do it, if I were you, we didn't start it with a big budget. We didn't dump a bunch of money into ads or use any of the resources that we had at our disposal. We started with cold calling. And since growing that agency, I've continued that momentum into my current agency, which is an agency that serves as coaches, consultants, and agency owners, helping them install our own done for you client acquisitions into their business and working with them to automate and operate their back end. But getting back to that mortgage AI, during that time and during that period, we went from like literally zero to booking over 400 meetings a month. Now, to be transparent with you, the reason that we were able to get to 400 meetings a month, the reason why I'm only going to share with you guys how to get to 200 meetings a month is because we only actually generated about 200 meetings a month from our cold calling process. Because after we generated about $20,000 in sales, we began to roll back some of that profits into ads, which with the marketing abilities that we had, we were able to generate an additional 200 appointments through paid ads. That being said, we were still able to generate over 200 appointments a month through our cold calling system that I'm going to share with you today. Now, if you've been following my channel for a bit, you know that I've made 2 separate videos where I kind of shared a little bit of what we did here to book all these meetings through cold calling. We have this video over here where it's us cold calling live. We booked 14 meetings in 2 hours, and another one here kind of breaking down some of the software that we used. And what I saw is that the people have spoken. These are 2 of my top performing videos on my YouTube channel, as I just share a little bit about me breaking down this revolutionary cold calling system. So to me, the people have spoken, and in this video, I'm going to share with you literally every single thing, no stone left unturned, every single bit of what we did, how we set it up. I'm going to go over how we set our cold call targets. I'm going to go over and I'm going to give you guys the cold calling scripts that we use, and I'm also going to share a bonus one of the gatekeeper script that we use to get past gatekeepers. I'm going to show you guys how we set up a system so we could do over 200 cold calls an hour. I'm going to show you how we maximized our cold call leverage so we could have single cold callers booking us over 10 appointments a day. I'm going to show you how we were able to manage and build our cold calling team. I'm going to show you how we tracked all of our cold calling data and how we optimized our cold callers based on what the data was telling us. And then last, if you stay to the end, I'm going to play out some live cold calls so you can just listen and see this entire system in process. All right, so let's get into this. So the first thing that we did before we did anything here, was we actually calculated the numbers that we need to hit in order to reach our goals. And what I've done, and I'll share this with you guys in the description, is we created a calculator to figure out what KPIs that we needed to hit and how many dials that we needed to do in order to actually get enough appointments so we could reach our financial goals inside of our agency. So all you have to do is edit the content in the yellow here. So for example, if you want 200 appointments and these are the KPIs that we ran through, these are the KPIs that we went for, you would need to do 220 dials a day or 6,600 dials a month with a 30% pickup rate, with a 60% pitch rate, and with a 3% appointment to book KPI. So all you have to do here is, this is where I'd recommend that you start. You come in here, and if you want 100 appointments a month, if you want 500 appointments a month, doesn't matter what the number is, but actually figure out what numbers you need to hit before you go in and build out the system. Because when you build out the system, you're going to want to be building it around the numbers that you see here. Because if you try and build out the system without actually identifying what targets you need to hit, it's very easy that you're going to fall short. But if you identify what targets you need to hit, build your entire system around hitting those targets, it's going to be pretty logical for you to actually end up hitting your cold calling goals. And as a result, hitting your financial goals inside of your agency. So once we identify the actual numbers that we need to hit, we'll go through the cold calling scripts that we use. So this was the cold calling script that we used. This was a video opener this was a little overview that I shared internally with my team. But when the lead answered the phone, it was, hey, name, how you been? And then opener number one and opener number two. Now, one of the very important things that we used is we always split tested different scripts at any given time. Because if we put all our eggs into one basket and we just tried one script and we just kept hammering one script over and over again, we wouldn't actually find a way to improve. But if we did $50 with one script and $50 with another script, and then compared the two different scripts to see which one was better, cut the losing script, and then continuously optimize the winning script by creating another variation and then repeating the split testing process, it allowed us to continuously get better every single day so we could hit our KPIs and our appointment set goals. So the two openers that we had, hey, name, this is your name. Look, you're probably going to hate me for this, but yeah, this is actually a cold call. Now, I don't know if you want to hang up now or give me like 20 seconds, up to you. And the other opener was, hey, name, to be completely honest, is a cold call. Would you like to hang up now, or do you have 25 seconds to hear me out? Then, once again, we introduced another split test in the process, right? So our split test is after we got that confirmation to introduce the not instant hang up, is another way of putting it. We split tested how could we transition into the pitch? What could we say to hook them to get them interested in hearing us out? So split test A was, yeah, I was just wondering if you could possibly handle another 2 to 3 closed loans as an LO. And split test B was, I can set you up on a system, connect you with people from out of town who are about to move into your area so you can secure more closed and funded loans every month despite these high interest rates. Would that not help, or can I share more info? Once we got that permission to pitch, it was okay. Well, it's a real simple two-step process. Now, this is something that we optimized over time. I remember when we first actually started with this was like an entire page. But one of the things that I learned is that when you're cold calling, you don't want to be talking for any more than 12 to 15 seconds in one given go, because you don't have that trust, because you don't have as much authority as on a sales call or anything like that. It's going to be very easy for the person on the other end to get kind of bored, to get kind of non-interested, and to want to hang up the phone. So if you keep them very engaged in the conversation and keep your messaging very short and, constantly provoking them to engage and react back into the conversation, it's going to keep them hooked. It's going to keep them interested for longer. So after a lot of optimizations, this is the one that we ended up scaling, which is, okay, well, it's a real simple two-step process. First, we get you connected with people who are moving into your city looking for a loan before they establish LO connections. But I'm sure some of these prospects may be low quality, so that's why we have a second step where we'd also nurture and pre-qual them for you. And to talk numbers, we only work with one LO per area, but we guarantee them 10 closed and funded loans. Does that make sense? They would say yes. Okay, name. Well, the next step would be to have a conversation with an advisor, but I want to make sure we don't waste your time or ours. So here's a high level of what we do. Then what we would do is another thing that we began to test with overall close rates, not necessarily appointment set rates, but overall close rates and conversion percentage, is including the price in the understanding of what we do, and then also not including the price of what we do. So one of the ways that we were able to get more appointments, but obviously a bit of a lower close rate because some of them weren't as qualified, was by not including price when we explained what we do. And that went like, so if our advisor sees that we can generate you deals, we would install the system and then you would own it for life, backed by our initial 6-month guarantee. Then from day one, you can spend as little or as much as you want on ads, depending on how many deals you want on a monthly basis. And we did this so we could, basically sell them the idea of like, you're going to own the system. And then like, however many deals you want, you just up or down the ad spend. And that was kind of the angle that we took. So name, can we lend you 30 minutes of our time, showing, not like asking them for, can we have their time, but hey, can we lend you our time to have a little bit more authority and a little bit more frame going into the sales process, to walk you through how other LOs are adding 2 to 3 deals a month and see if we could do the same for you. Now, so that was the price not included. Now to go over the price included is, so if our advisor decides that you're a good fit, you would be responsible for a one-time installation. Then you would own your system for life, backed by our 6-month guarantee. Then after that, you can spend as little as much as you want on ads, depending on how many deals you want on a monthly basis. That's something you'd be comfortable doing. Yes, they ask what the fee is. Completely understandable. It's a few grand depending on your market, which comes with your first 10 deals in 6-month guarantee. And we shut up and let them talk. You just shut up, let them talk. I'll go over some of the objections and how we were able to handle them in a second here. And then after they've said what they've said, can we lend you 30 minutes of our time to walk you through how other LOs are adding 2 to 3 deals a month to see if we can do the same for you? And we would pull up the calendar and find our closers' free times, and then we would schedule them in. Now, as we all know, sales objections start with the cold calling process. And we had a ton of objections going through this process, as any cold call process would. But these were the overcomes that we had for the most common objections that we got. And we spent a lot of time, we spent daily time optimizing this to actually overcome this. And we trained our cold callers on this daily so we could constantly revise these to get better over time. And again, this is what we were left at, which was able to scale. So if they were wondering, oh, well, you guys aren't guaranteeing enough, I understand the hesitation. Our guarantee is the worst case scenario that we put in place for protection and peace of mind for our partners. That said, most average an additional 24 to 36 deals a year, right? We always positioned the guarantee as the worst case scenario. It was like the, if all goes to shit, at least you're not in trouble, right? This is like the worst case scenario. And that was the frame that we had with the guarantee. What most people do is they frame the guarantee as the best case scenario, and the prospect knows that they're unlikely to actually achieve the best case scenario. So when we came in there and position the guarantee as the worst case scenario, it increased the perceived likelihood of achievement of them getting at least some results. Now, if this sounds too good to be true, I understand the hesitation. Well, the stipulation is that after you get an interested borrower, our partners must contact them in a timely manner, and our long-term evil intentions is to set this up for people like you, one time, deliver a big ROI to gain your trust, and then invite you to our in-person and virtual mastermind events, which is the backbone of our business. Now, this was a way to justify making an irresistible offer up front. So one of the things that we did is we said, hey, once we get 30 mortgage partners on board, we're going to introduce a in-person mastermind, and we're going to have quote unquote upsells and longer term services where we could work more intensively with your business. So what we're doing right now is we're going to market with an irresistible offer that almost does seem too good to be true, because really what we're doing is we're just gaining trust with people so we can actually build out the backbone of our business, which would be introduced to you in 6 to 12 months from now. And that long-term thing showed two things. One, it showed that we weren't a churn and burn agency and we actually had a long-term vision for them. And two, it justified us making such an irresistible offer up front by showing them that we had a reason and we were going to make our money eventually, but we wanted to make you money first. Next question was, what's the price? Well, great question. And it depends on what's required for our partner to get their goal. Then we would ask them, how much is the deal worth to you? Okay, well, in that case, it would be a few grand to get you the 10 deals or projected minimum return of 10x, whatever they said a deal was worth to them. Is that something you'd be comfortable doing? So what this would look like is, how much is the deal worth to you? Oh, well, I make 5 grand per deal. Okay, well, in that case, it would only be a few grand to get you the 10 deals or projected minimum return of $50,000. Is that something you'd be comfortable doing? Investing a few grand to make $50,000, right? Another one here, I don't pay up front. I understand the hesitation. As you know, though, in our industry, it's illegal for us to work with our partners in a manner where we get compensated after you close. Otherwise, we would, as our average clients, add 24 to 36 deals a year. And if we took commissions on that, we would truthfully 3 to 5x our lifetime value. So this one was a little bit more specific to the mortgage because there was actually laws and regulations about receiving commissions from a mortgage deal, right? That's actually like a regulated thing that happens in the industry. And so when they said, I don't pay up front, that was how we overcame that objection. Now, what I would do if you weren't in the mortgage niche is you could search up different laws and regulations around commissions and stuff like that. Find one that you could bring up in this scenario and recite that law. So they would be like, okay, well, that's why we wouldn't do it. And then you could also say, hey, like if we were to do that and you were to generate $50,000 over the next whatever, and we took, 25% of that, we would actually, really increase our lifetime value and we'd actually make a lot more money. That's actually one of the flaws that we have. That's actually one of the hurdles that we're facing in our own agency as well, is that we're actually not able to take those commission checks. I don't pay up front. I've been burned before. Oh, I mean, since we've started, we actually haven't had come across any competitors for it is what we do. So, I mean, was it a marketing agency that burned you in the past? Right. So if they, have been burned past them before, the number one thing that we do here is we differentiate ourselves from actually being a marketing agency. So if they're like, oh yeah, I've been burned in the past. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Was it a marketing agency? Like, we're not a marketing agency. We're coming in to install a system, and then we're going to give you that system, and we're going to help optimize it to get you those first 10 deals over the last 6 months. But we're going to come in and give you a system, kind of like a build and release style thing that you're going to be able to own for the rest of your life. And you can have anyone in your team use it for as long as you want, right? This isn't really a marketing agency. And we would use that to differentiate ourselves from every person that they've worked with in the past. Next one here is can't put up money on marketing now because of high interest rates. So this was very specific to what was going on at the time as we were cold calling people. I understand that. I mean, do you think that there's still some deals going on in this market and there's still a way to get them? Right? Like, yeah, there might be high interest rates, but like, are people still out there getting deals? Great. Well, how are you currently getting more deals? If they say referrals, okay. So that was the standard MO script that we used along with a couple of split tests. Now, another thing that I've thrown in here just as a bonus for you guys is a gatekeeper script if you are in a gatekeeper industry. Now, I actually have a full video where I went through this script, and I'll link that video in the description, or actually what I'll do is I'll attach it in here so you can watch that video again. But I just wanted to throw this in you guys here as a quick bonus of what to do if you're in a niche with a gatekeeper and how you can get around gatekeepers as well. Okay, so the first thing that we did is we calculated how many actually cold calls that we need to do in order and what KPIs that we needed to hit in order to hit our metrics. And we went through the scripts that we're using. Now I want to share with you the how we actually, maximize the time on the phone to get up to 200 dials an hour using software and whatnot. So the first thing that we did is we leveraged software to masquerade people's phone numbers. So whether it was Apollo, D7, Lead Finder, Lead Zinger, Lead Carrot, Lead Rocks, like there's a whole bunch of them. But the thing that we did not do, the thing that we definitely did not do was manually go onto the internet and like try to find mortgage brokers and like write their name down in a spreadsheet. Like it just took up too much time. And like really as a business owner, like if you can invest $50 into a software to save you 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week to scrape leads, like you probably shouldn't be doing this. So the first thing that we did was use Apollo, use T7 Lead Finder to scrape a whole bunch of leads so we could buy back our time and use that time to be doing dialing and high ROI activities as opposed to scraping leads. But that's pretty basic. So what I'm going to share with you guys now is how we set up a power dialer and a predictive dialer using close.com. All right, so now that we're in Close CRM, the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to set up smart views so you can segregate the different leads that you have in your pipeline, and then you can quickly rip through the dials and also understand the context as to why you're dialing and what you should be saying, or have the proper frame of mind going into the call. So in order to create a smart lead, you can either come over to contacts or leads, it doesn't really matter. You're going to click add filter, and then the smart views that we want to set up here are ready to dial. So people that we have not yet contacted did not answer. So usually we want to dial people 2 to 3 times before we move on to them. So we want to set up did not answer. So we contact them, did not answer, not interested. So these are the people that we did contact, but they're not interested, and we can mark them as not interested. And then the last one here is meeting booked. So we can mark these ones as meeting booked. So what you do in order to create a smart view is you come over to add filter, communication, number of times contacted is exactly. So we've contacted them once before, and then we click done. Then we want to come over save. So then we can put contacted 1x. Okay. So now you can see over here, I've created 2 different smart views, one for the ones that we have not contacted yet, one that we've contacted 1x, and then you can go through and create the additional ones to properly segregate your entire list here. Now, let me show you how this smart dialer or the power dialer actually works. All you got to do is you got to come over to the no contact thing here. You just come over here. You can do predictive dialer, which I will explain what that works in a second, or you can just hit start calling. Now it's going to make you have to actually download the Close app, but what it's going to do is it's going to automatically dial this person. Then if that person doesn't answer, it's just going to instantly start dialing this person. Then if that person doesn't answer, it's going to instantly start dialing this person. And what this is going to allow you to do is without, typing numbers on your phone, without going click, clack, click, clack, click, clack on your iPhone or something like that to get through leads, you're going to be able to completely rip through lists, dial 2 to 3 times more people in the same amount of time working, and ultimately see 2 to 3 times the numbers of results. Now, the second thing here that they have is predictive dialer. So what predictive dialer does, which is a little bit more of an advanced thing, is you can call leads simultaneously. So we just started to test this at the end, and it did definitely work very well. Obviously, there is a few cons with it, but it's another thing that you can look through, especially if you have a huge list to go through. And basically what it'll do is it'll call multiple leads at once, more conversations and more deals. The more people calling, the more calls one person. And what it will do is basically it'll call like 10 people at once, and then whoever picks up, it'll redirect you to that person. And if 2 people picked up, it'll redirect you to one, and it'll tell you to call the other one back, right? So that was another way that you could really get through, 300 to 400 dials in an hour, because you're literally calling 10 people at once, and it's just going to redirect you to the one person that is answered. Okay, so that is how we set up Close CRM, the power dialer, and Close CRM to actually like rip through dials and be able to actually call like 200 people an hour. Now I'm going to share you guys how to actually maximize the leverage, which is really just increasing your pickup rates, right? So how do we get more meetings booked per hours of dialing and thus really increasing our leverage, right? The first way to do is we get better at calling, which is a long-term process, right? And that's usually a huge lever to pull. But what I'm going to share with you is how you can instantly do this by increasing your pickup rates. And what I mean by that is like if you call 100 people, right? Well, if 20 of them pick up versus 40 of them pick up, you're going to book double the amount of appointments theoretically with no additional time, energy, or no additional skill, no additional time invested into your cold calling process, just because you set this thing up properly to be able to increase the amount of people that you could speak to so you could book more appointments. So I'm going to share with you the steps that we did in order to maximize our pickup rate. So the first thing that we did was we dialed cell phone number always. So cell phone numbers will always have a higher pickup percentage than landline numbers, right? If people are on landlines, you're more likely to get the gatekeeper, you're more likely to get out of offices, you're more likely to really just not get answered. On the other hand, though, if you're able to call people's direct cell phone number, you're able to get through to the decision maker, get through on a phone call that people are probably have on their desk or in their pocket. It's going to ring. They're going to be more likely to answer the phone. So what we did is we use this software here, clearoutphone.io, to import our lead list into this software. And what it would do is it would simply just spit out which ones are cell phone numbers and which ones are landline numbers. And then we could just we could just import all the cell phone numbers into our closed CRM. So we were only dialing cell phone numbers, which is the first lever that we did to actually increase our pickup rate. Now, the second one here is our cold call time sorter, which I've talked about in the past. And this is another thing that's very important too. And I'll add this with the next step here. So dialing between 8 and 9 a.m. in prospects time zone and 4 to 5 p.m. in prospects time zone. Because if you think about it, on any given day, between 8 and 9 a.m., people probably haven't even really started work yet. So, they're going to be more open. They're going to be less stressed, and they're going to be more open and receptive to your cold call. And the same thing at the end of the day, especially for me at the end of the day at 4 to 5 p.m., once I've already done all my work, I'm not really working anymore, like that is the only time I will answer a phone call from an unknown number. Like when I'm in the middle of a project, maybe I'm like filming a YouTube video, like right now, like if somebody were to cold call me right now, I would just instantly click it off and I wouldn't respond to them. And granted, it's 9:48 a.m. in the middle of the day for me because of the time I wake up at. On the flip side, though, if you waited until about 4 p.m. when I wasn't really doing anything, maybe I was eating dinner, maybe I was just hanging out in my apartment here, I would be much more likely and much more receptive to opening your phone calls. So simply by calling people at the right time between 8 and 9 a.m. and 4 to 5 p.m., we were really able to massively increase our pickup rates and also our appointment setting percentage. So let me show you how to use this cold call time sorting sheet in order to actually do that. So over here on this cold call time sorting sheet, and I'm going to share this with you guys in the description so you guys can just use it. What it does is it has all the US time zones in here and automatically calculated with the proper time zone that it is in and all the, different possible area codes that is possible. And then all you do is you import all the phone numbers in here. And let's say it's like what it takes, whatever the first three numbers are. I guess that's not an area code. Just put in three random numbers. Okay. So 864 is an Eastern time zone area code. And listen, I could put in 86846, and then doesn't matter how long the phone number is. And as you can see here, what it actually does, it only actually reads the first three numbers. So I could put in a full phone number here and it'll still spit back out an Eastern time zone because it takes whatever the first three digits are in this, it cross-references it with this sheet so you can actually calculate which time zone this prospect is in. And then what you can do is you can create an additional smart view inside of Close to only dial Eastern time zones between 8 and 9 a.m. and 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Pacific time zones between 8 and 9 a.m. and 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific, Central time zone, and Mountain Standard Time as well. Now, the last thing that we did to increase our pickup rate and really maximize our leverage for the amount of dials that we were doing is you can use close.com and you can purchase a phone number for every state that you target. Now, it's going to be very time consuming and it's probably not worth your input to output to actually buy a phone number for every single city that you're targeting. But if you are dialing people in California, you're going to have a higher pickup rate if you have a California area code. If you are dialing people in New York, you're going to have a higher pickup rate if you have a New York area code. So you can come into closed CRM, but when you're setting up your phone systems, you can buy additional area codes. And then what you can do is you can create another smart view of people in individual states and select the proper phone number that you want to dial with that. So every time that you call somebody in New York, you have a New York area code, California, you have a California area code, Tennessee, you have a Tennessee area code, which is going to further increase your pickup rates and ultimately maximize the amount of leverage that you get. Okay, so we've calculated our numbers. We've gone over the scripts. I showed you guys how we were able to do over 200 dials an hour with their cold call system and how we set that up. The next thing here is how we actually manage the team. So first of all, I'm going to share with you what the day-to-day management of the team looked like. And then the second here was the recruitment and compensation. And this is really what I did in the entire process. So first thing that we did here is we had a morning meeting, which was really only 15 minutes, but I put 30 minutes here because if maybe you're just starting out, you might want to spend a little bit more time with your team. Then I did afternoon call reviews on my own. And then I had an end of day meeting and training session. So the morning meeting, I updated the team of any, company-wide announcements that were going on. I spent, maybe 10, 15 minutes doing role play training. We would go through and we would seek improvement over yesterday's feedback. I wouldn't give them a bunch of training because here's the thing, right? Like imagine you're playing sports and you imagine you're about to go out on the ice, you're about to go on the field, you're about to go on the court. And, in that pregame pep talk, your coach is just telling you all the things that you've been doing wrong in practice and all the things that you did wrong last game. You wouldn't be very motivated to go out there in the field. You'd probably be feeling pretty down. That's why we focus that end of day training. We focus all that, the negative and the improvement and the feedback and stuff towards the end of the day when they're done cold calling. And in the morning, it's more of a motivation pep talk. Like, let's go out there, let's review the scripts, like all that kind of stuff. And let's go out there and make some money. Then the call review itinerary is, so what I would do is I would get each rep on my team to send/mark one call, and I would go into to review them. Then I would also randomly review an additional one call per rep. I would take notes on everything that needed to be discussed, and I would highlight the 1 to 2 highest leverage improvement points. Because, especially if you have a newer cold caller on your team, you might review their call and think like, oh my God, I got 20 different things that they need to change, right? But you want to identify like what the 1 to 2 biggest levers that they could pull and only focus on that. Because if you come to the end of the day training session and you're trying to train them on 20 new things, they're not going to remember any of it. But if you come to the end of the day training session and you focus on training, getting them better at one specific thing, they'll actually be able to learn, they'll actually be able to implement, and they'll actually be able to get better the next day. And so that's why you want to save it for the highest leverage thing that they could improve. And the last thing here was what the end of day training meeting looked like. So the first thing that we did is we reviewed their scorecards. We looked at their KPIs. We took note of any bad KPIs, like if they had a low pickup rate, a low pitch rate, whatever that was, and we added it to the bottom. Then we self-reflect. I got them to self-reflect, like, hey, what's going good? What's going bad? Then we set up an action item review. So if they had any action items that we set for them to do at the end of the day, or during the day, or whatever that is like, did you get them done? How did that go? Then we spent about 10 minutes doing a call review. So we would review calls with them. And I would also discuss the notes that I had on my own call review on my own time. Then I would set up an issue solving track. So we would put the problem here. So whether it was a low pickup rate, a low pitch rate, a low opener, whatever the case may be, we would identify what the root, like why is it happening here? And then we would come up with solution. And the solution was basically the action items, right? So maybe the solution was to, we weren't doing enough dials. And so the solution here is, hey, we got to, cut back. I'm going to get rid of this task off of your plate so you could do an extra 100 dials today. And we'd put that as the action item here so they could focus on the next day. And for the last 20 minutes or so, we would do role play and we would focus on the new feedback and the notes that we had to train them to get better day after day. Now, that is how we manage the team in regards to recruitment and compensation. So job-specific hiring notes. When you're hiring a commission-only low-leverage role, we don't need to be as intense with our hiring process. I would always conduct 3 to 5 interviews per job positions available, and I would always hire twice the amount of cold callers that I actually needed. So if I deemed that I needed 2 cold callers, I would hire 4, and I would actually treat the first 1 to 2 weeks as the interview, right? This is a very low-risk role to be hiring out. It's not like you're hiring a CSM or an account manager or a media buyer for your existing clients. So you don't need to be as intensive in the interview process, and you can really let them actually perform and actually go out on the field to see if they're actually going to be good. So for compensation, we always want to hire our sales reps on a performance basis. So option A is 5 to 10% per close. And we want to use this when we have the ability/resources to show that your new rep will be able to, hit their potential earnings if their KPIs are met, equating to 100 to 150% of the goal that they stated in the interview. So if they come to you and they say, I want to make 2K a month, well, if you can tangibly show them that, hey, as long as you hit your KPIs, you'll be able to make 2 to 3K a month by doing this, then going on a straight commission of 5 to 10% per close is the best way to go about this. Now, option B, if you're not there and you can't tangibly show them that they could be making $2,000 per month if they just hit their KPIs, you could offer them a 10 to $50 per appointment show. And we want to use this when the ability/resources to show that your new rep again, will be able to hit their earnings KPI if is of 100 to 150% of the goal that they stated in the interview. So final note here is at the end of the day, your goal when hiring a commission-only rep is to have them believe that if they hit their KPIs, which they believe that they can do through case studies, proof, maybe you show them the amount of appointments that you were able to book on your own, they can make 100 to 150% of their income goal. In addition to that, your goal is to be able to sell them on this in a manner that exposes you to the least amount of risk as possible. So this is your best option. This is your second best option. You only want to use this option when you can't pull off this option. And with this, you want to give them either $10 to $50 appointment per show. And you basically calculate it on what KPIs they need to hit in order to be able to hit 100 to 150% of their short-term income goals. Now, going over the setter scorecard here. So this was probably the most valuable thing and most important thing that we had in the process. And again, I will leave this in the description so you can use this for yourself. But basically, you want to come in here, and what we did here is we set up the different KPIs that we needed our cold callers to hit. So right here, we wanted them doing on average 200 dials a day each. We wanted to have a 40% pitch percentage and a 5% meeting book rate percentage. And what we could do is they would just put in all their numbers, how many dials they did, how many pickups they got, how many pitches they got through, and how many appointments they set. And then we could come in here and we could tangibly see which was the problem here, right? So maybe, the pickup rate was low. Well, then we could address the pickup rate on our end of day meetings, and we could come up with action items to increase our pickup rate. If the pitch percentage was low, which means that people were picking up the phone, but they weren't letting our cold caller pitch, then we know it was the opener. We could address that. We could do call reviews so we could figure out exactly what we need to do in order to get that pitch percentage up and above 40%. And again, if we had people picking up the phone, we were able to hear them out. We were able to get them to pitch, but they weren't setting the appointment. We know that the problem is in that actual pitch and they're not feeling incentivized to actually book that appointment. So we could do call reviews. We could identify what the root cause of the problem is, and we could optimize that to increase this over time. And the last thing I'll share with you here before we get into the live call review, so you can see this entire thing in action playing out, so you can actually just watch how this whole thing happens, is the optimization cheat sheet. So what I've listed here is the different problems that you're going to run into when you're beginning to manage or even doing cold calls yourself, and what the solution to that problem is, right? So the first one is my team isn't dialing enough. If our team isn't dialing enough, it is our fault. They're either the wrong person and we hired them, they're not trained, we trained them, or they're not motivated. And we're the leader and it is our responsibility to motivate them. The solution is to determine which of these three is the problem and address it one-on-one with your reps. If your pickup rate is below 30%, it means that we are not reaching prospects or they're not choosing to answer. Level 1 is to use Clear Out Phone to sort cell phone numbers. Level 2 is to sort by area codes and dial between 8 and 9 a.m. or 4 to 5 p.m. And then level 3 is to purchase area-specific codes to where you are targeting. If the problem is less than 60% of prospects are letting me pitch, if our pitch percentage is low, it means our opener is not performing well. Step number 1 is to check tonality. And if you do simple call reviews, that will reveal any weak tonality. And step number 2 is to check offer/positioning. If tonality appears good, but we lack results, we'd want to test a new offer positioning. Problem number 4 here is that if you can get through the opener, but less than 17% of prospects are actually booking, if our pitch to appointment percentage is low, it means people aren't interested in our offer or don't trust us. 90% of the time, it is a matter of trust stemming from poor cold calling. Step number 1 is to complete 1,000 dials, constantly look to improve and send call recordings to any advisor that you have. Step number 2 is to consult with the advisor to be able to tweak calls, review offer positioning, and handle objections, right? Like if they're getting through the pitch, right? Like if you're getting through the opener, right? And you mentioned your offer in the opener, people are interested in your offer, right? But if they're not actually going in through and booking, it's probably a matter of just, we're not yet good at cold calling, right? And so in this case, it's like, we just got to do more dials. We just got to do the boring work. We got to get better over time. We got to study the process. We got to study sales. We got to study tonalities. And if you do 1,000 dials, if you do 2,000 dials, if you do 3,000 dials, over time, you'll get really, really, really good at cold calling. And that is how you'll ultimately hit the numbers. So that is the entire breakdown of the cold call system that we use to book over 200 appointments a month. And really, when I say I only worked an hour a day, because the only thing that I did here was what you saw in here. And so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play some live recordings of my setting team actually going out there and booking appointments for my agency.
Hello.
Hi, this is Brent.
Hey there, Brent. How's it going?
Good. Who is this, please?
Yeah, so this is Akram with Broker Leads. I'll be honest, we've actually never spoken. So could I just quickly explain why I'm calling?
Sure.
Great. Yeah, so we work with loan officers to add them an extra $100,000 a year guaranteed in commissions. So that's about 2 deals a month. Could I just give you the short 20-second scoop on how we do it?
Sure.
Great. So we've been using this new AI that we use as an assistant to qualify exclusive leads 24/7 in combination with social media marketing to find and nurture and then pass off the ready to borrow leads to you. So basically what we do is we qualify those prospects with questions such as, credit score, their timeline, how much they're planning on borrowing, So once they're ready, you'll receive a phone call, and all you have to do is speak with a lead. Do you think that's something that could help you?
From what you told me, it sounds great.
It does, doesn't it? Well, I was actually wondering if you'd be interested in speaking with our CEO. I can sneak a spot in his calendar to show you in depth on how we do it and share some value regardless of moving forward or not. Would you have some time this week?
This week is pretty busy.
Okay. Otherwise, I have some space next week. Would that work better for you?
Yeah, towards the first part of the week.
Okay. Like something like Monday or Tuesday?
Monday would probably be best.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Monday. Let me just check. And what time zone are you in?
What was the question? What time zone am I in? I'm in Arizona.
Arizona.
It's 3:00 here right now.
Okay. Perfect. So let me check for Monday. I have a spot at 2 p.m. Would that work for you?
That'll work.
Perfect. And what's your email so I can send you that confirmation?
Brent@brentmcdonald.com.
That's brentmcdonald.com. Perfect. So I'll send that your way, and our CEO will be ready to speak to you on Monday then. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Perfect, man. You have an amazing day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, Joseph. How's it going?
Doing good. What's going on?
Great. Yeah, so Joseph, this is Akram from Broker Leads. I'll be completely honest. We've actually never spoken. Can I quickly explain why I'm calling?
Sure.
Perfect. So basically, Joseph, we work with loan officers to add them an extra $100,000 a year guaranteed in commissions. So that's about 2 deals a month. Could I give you the short 20-second scoop on how we do it?
Sure.
Perfect. Great. So basically, we've actually been using a new AI that we use as an assistant to qualify exclusive leads 24/7 in combination with social media marketing to find, nurture, and then pass off the ready to borrow leads to you. So basically, we also qualify prospects with questions such as credit score, their timeline and how much they're planning on borrowing. And so once they're ready, you'll receive a phone call, and all you have to do is really speak to the lead. Do you think that could help you?
Potentially. What's the cost to me?
Great. So there's no upfront cost. We have multiple plans, but basically, I was going to ask you, would you have some time today or tomorrow to, talk to our CEO about it? He can give you more information about what this is all about.
Sure. Possibly tomorrow.
Perfect. Tomorrow. Is there a specific time you'd prefer, like morning or afternoon?
Afternoon would be better.
Afternoon would be better. Okay. Let me just check the times that we have here. Just a second. And what's your email address?
It's joseph.parks
Yep.
at apmortgage.com, as in American Pacific Mortgage.
Okay. It's and the time zone is Pacific, you said?
I'm sorry, say again?
The time zone. The time zone we live in? Sorry?
Pacific.
Pacific,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, Pacific. Let me check for tomorrow. Okay. So we have 3 p.m. available. Would that be something you could do?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, 3 p.m. Perfect. Sweet. So I'll get you booked in, and you'll receive a couple of reminders, if that's all right with you. Does this number receive
Sure.
reminders?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then you'll speak with our CEO tomorrow. He's very nice. You'll see.
All right. Sounds good.
See you
Thanks.
tomorrow, Joseph. Bye bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this video, I hope you got 10x the value in comparison to the time that you invested watching this video. If you want free coaching from myself, you can click the link below. We have a 100% free community. There's no upsells, none of that bullshit. I spend 2 hours a week on calls with the entire community. You can ask me anything, whether it to be setting appointments, closing appointments, or scaling your agency from any regards. Other than that, I wish you guys all the best with your agency, and I'll see you guys in the next video.